In one of our previous episodes, we discussed preconception and pregnancy do's and don'ts, and we promised to bring you back birth keeper and hypnobirthing practitioner Theoni Papoutsis to tell us more about the birthing options available and how to prepare for the newest member of your family. Thank you for coming back and joining us, Theoni. Great to have you here.
Yes, thank you.
Now, what are the different options that mothers, expectant mothers, have in terms of giving birth? Because, I mean, in terms of the medical profession, most commonly it's in hospital or a C-section, and that's where you go. What are the other options that are out there?
So that's one option, private hospital with a gynecologist. The other option is to have an independent midwife.
Okay.
So a midwife would take the place of a gynecologist, and the gynae is only there for backup in case you would need a cesarean section if needed. And only 5 to 8% of births need help.
Okay.
So it's actually a very small percentage.
Yes.
And then, of course, you can have like a birthing center, and they have in-house midwives.
Okay.
And then there are women that have home births with an independent midwife.
Okay. And what are the factors that you should be considering when making a decision about the birth of your child?
I think it's personal for everyone because everyone's unique, but a woman's got to really sit with herself and her partner and think about, what do we want from this experience? Because it is the most transformational experience that a couple are going to have as adults.
Yeah.
From the conception until the child is here, you know, updating belief systems, thinking about, well, I thought that, but actually maybe I think this. And some women say, I'm definitely having an elective section. And then they become pregnant and they realize, actually, that feels so weird.
Yeah.
Actually, I want to have a baby naturally.
Now, a question that I have is that a woman's body is designed for bearing a child. Why is it that the C-section has become the go-to solution that so many people end up having when, as you say, only about 5% of ladies actually need a Caesar?
I think a lot of women don't know their options, and that's why I thought it would be good to chat about that today, because they don't realize that there are such things as midwives. That can, and what a midwife does, she builds her relationship with you through your pregnancy.
What is the reason that there's this limited knowledge base or information base, let's rather call it that, in terms of the birthing process? Because it feels like unless you take the steps and take the action, nobody else is going to come and give you some different solutions. And
I think that's my biggest problem, and it's always been. And the kind of thing that I've always dreamt of doing is to get what I do into high school. Because actually girls need to know then, actually, when I'm planning to have a baby, what is it that I need?
Yes, yeah.
And how do I actually go about that, and what are my options?
Well, now you've got the platform, so let's talk about the benefits of a natural birth versus a cesarean. What are the main fundamentals there? So
the fundamentals is like I said last time, the labor is a bridge. So on a psychological level, it helps mom to get ready that this person's arriving and for baby to get ready. So we think, we're not sure, that there's something in the baby's lungs that says, I'm ready for life on earth, because that's the last organ to develop, that triggers her labor.
Right.
And then she goes into labor. So baby then knows, I'm ready, it's my birthday, today or tomorrow, and I'm coming, so they get to choose their birthday. And what happens is, with all that massage and that movement, it prepares baby on a neurological level. Also getting the bacteria through the birth path, that helps baby's microbes. So for baby's gut. So babies who are born via cesarean section, we need to actually really take care of their gut, because they don't have that bacteria that having a physiological birth brings.
So it's almost like that process is really a kickstart to, obviously the baby's full of life, but it's the kickstart to all of the peripheral systems and things that go with it.
Yes. And it really switches them on, that birth, because they're getting all those beautiful hormones, the oxytocin, melatonin even, adrenaline at the end, all of that, baby's getting all of that from mom for I'm ready for life on earth.
Yes. Now, in terms of the pain, because that's a big thing that ladies fear, is that pain, because I mean, you've all watched movies with screaming moms giving birth. So it's quite a big psychological thing on that level. So how do you prepare moms for dealing with that pain, or just sort of managing that process so that it's not as scary as it might seem?
So that's one of my things that I do very well. And with pain, we first of all reframe it. We don't see it as pain, we see it as it's intense and it's powerful. Because when we think of it as pain, we can very easily go into victim.
Yes. Okay.
So we want to look at it first of all that way. Then if we look at the pain of labor, it's not an injury, okay, because that's when we would go to hospital.
Yes.
And it's not an illness, that's when we would go to hospital. This is a normal process.
Okay.
So it is transformational pain. It's transforming you, and it's very limited, because transforming you is very limited. Like if a baby's teething, if a child's got growing pains, it's transformational pain. It's going to end. So labor, I like to see it as transformational pain.
Okay.
And there are ways of breathing techniques and things that you can do in order to prepare yourself for, sure, okay, now it's coming, this is how long it's going to last for, this is how I can hold my body, and we practice that before the labor day.
One of the things that I'd like to find out is, what are the studies around the difference in the relationship between a mum and a child when you've had a natural birth versus a cesarean section?
The difference that we find are obviously a baby that's born physiologically is that they are a lot more alert, awake, they're more with it, they come to the breast more easily, breastfeeding is more successful, their gut, all of that is definitely better. Okay. With a baby, and if we're talking an elective cesarean section, in other words, baby has not had any labor whatsoever, so it's got none of those hormones, babies are 5 times higher chance of ending up in ICU. Okay. Straight after birth.
Really? Sure.
Because also they've got fluid on the lungs. It hasn't been squeezed out as they came through the birth canal. There's a lot more. They're a bit more in trauma. Yes. Because it's like, well, I was there hanging out, and then suddenly the lights are on, and everyone, everyone took me out, and like, what's going on?
Suddenly, there's no transition. As you say, that bridge is not there.
There's no massaging. There's no baby coming out gently. It's just suddenly, oh, you're here.
Yeah.
And often babies, because they're in shock, they don't tend to respond, and so then we're rubbing them, and we traumatizing them more, not realizing that baby's already going, oh, it's a bit scary out here, what's happening?
Yeah. I think it's, I mean, you make a good point in terms of it's got to be right for every mother, whatever process they go through. But now, if you are going the natural birth route, what are the safety nets, if I can maybe call it that are in place should something go wrong in that process?
So you always have a backup gynecologist. Okay. So the gynecologist you've seen once or twice in the pregnancy, so you know that when the midwife decides to make that call and says for whatever reason we need to make that call, gynecologist is called, pediatrician, anaesthetist, the whole team is assembled.
And I think it's also the idea that you've got this natural system that is built to give birth. It's built for the function, really. I mean, when you think about it. Yeah. So the chances are pretty good that it's going to be okay.
The secret is to go into labor on its own, so not to be interfered with. What happens is she's got a 95% chance of birthing that baby without any interference. Okay. So that's if anyone takes anything away from our talk today is to let it start on its own. Yes. Then you've got a better chance of it all going smoothly. Okay.
So the birth is a success. We've got baby in arms. It's a wonderful moment. What is the preparation for mom and dad, sort of in the sort of closer lead-up time to the actual physical birth process, and for the period afterwards in terms of adjusting from no child to child? You've suddenly got somebody who's heavily dependent on you. How do you prepare mom and dad for that?
So again, there's lots that we do, but for your viewers today, what I'd like to say is that it would be so lovely if they could find, especially if we look at their relationship, what makes their relationship their relationship? So is it that they have a ritual of making tea and coffee in the morning, or is it that at the end of the day they talk about their day? Yes. So what are small little almost rituals can they do that keeps them together and keeps them sane? Yes. Because then they're going to be more likely to stay together in the chaos of having a new person. That is just, and the 40 days after the birth is so important. It's actually called the 4th trimester. And what we do, it's from a yogic point of view and in a lot of traditions, is that you actually spend 40 days at home. Because that's the immune system, the baby's immune system is developing in those first 40 days. The electromagnetic field is developing, and that is when it's almost like a baby moon. They're all getting to know each other of who is this person and how do we all fit together and work together. And if they've got another child, the dynamics is changing. So it's again, okay, so how do we introduce this other person now, and how does that all change?
Okay, now let's talk self-care for mom, because I mean, obviously the birth is quite a traumatic experience on the body, and it's an emotional shift, a psychological shift to now deal with baby. What are some self-care tips that you would encourage moms to think about to ease themselves into this period?
So for the first 2 weeks, you stay in your pajamas. Not the same. You'll shower and put on fresh pajamas, because then people aren't going to stay. So if you have 1 or 2 visitors and you only need 1 visitor a day, they will come and they will go.
Yes, right.
Okay, and they will bring food, and because you're in your pajamas, they won't stay long.
Okay.
And you want to be in bed, you want to be lying down, resting, depending if there has been any trauma, whether it's a cesarean section or if there's been any damage to the perineum. We want to be off it, so that it is able to heal to the best of their ability. What's important is that mom is really adjusting to getting the breastfeeding going, lots of skin to skin, because that skin to skin with baby is going to promote the oxytocin hormone. It's going to promote the breastfeeding to work more effectively. And the first week really is a big adjustment with the breastfeeding, because literally this child is like, I used to get my food through the umbilical cord, room service, now I need to work for it, and now I need to ask for it. So that's the main thing, is to get the breastfeeding going, and that takes a good 6 weeks. So we don't want to interfere with pumping or anything. We just want to, every time that baby cues for looking for the food with their mouth, or starts with their tongue of need food, we put the baby to the breast. So all of that is so important, and that people are bringing her food, that she is staying hydrated, and that dad is supportive.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or partner is supportive of, what is it that you need? How can I help you? I'll burp the baby. I'll change the baby's nappies. You feeding the baby. So it's to, what are we going to do so that we're supporting each other and we're in this together?
Okay. So it's lovely dynamic, and I think it's such a wonderful thing, because it really makes this big event a family event, and everyone gets involved. So thank you so much for your insights today.
Pleasure.
There is always more to talk about, so we'll have you back again. But thank you for coming in and sharing this.